electronic music SWLLS and CUTS, screen is black. Is your monitor holding you back? Staring at a cramped screen, missing details, feeling the strain after a long work or gaming session. You're looking for an upgrade, and you've probably seen this giant from Lenovo. The Lenovo G34w-10 Ultrawide monitor. It promises immersion, productivity, and a slick design. But is it just another pretty panel or a genuinely game-changing piece of tech? And here's what surprised me. This monitor, which you can find for around $350, does something most high-end ultrawides still get wrong. Today, we're going to dive deep, test it thoroughly, and find out if the Lenovo G34w-10 is worth your investment in 2026. For the best price, click the link in the description. Screen FILLS with clean, dynamic B-roll of the monitor on a desk. Let's start with the obvious. This thing is massive. 34 inches of curved IPS screen stretched into a 21:9 aspect ratio. It's not just big, it's wide, like having two monitors glued together without the annoying bezel in the middle. The stand is surprisingly sturdy for a budget-friendly ultra-wide, with tilt adjustment only, but that's often enough. The build feels solid, not premium, but definitely not cheap. It looks professional on any desk. But here's the first twist, that curve. It's a 1500R curvature, which is pretty aggressive. Some love it for immersion, others find it distracting. So is this curve a genius trick or a gimmick? We'll find out. Cut to user working ON spreadsheet spanning the entire screen. The main event is the screen itself. 3440x1440 resolution. That's UWQHD. It sits beautifully between 4K's pixel density and 1080p's performance ease. For productivity, it's a powerhouse. Imagine having 3 full windows open side by side without any overlap. Your code editor, your browser, and your documentation all visible. No more frantic alt-tabbing. It's like productivity steroids. However, therefore, we must talk pixels. This isn't a 4K monitor, so don't expect razor-sharp text from a foot away. But from a normal viewing distance, it's crisp, clear, and immensely usable. Cut to colorful gaming scene now for the gamers. This monitor boasts a 144 Hz refresh rate. That's smooth. Combined with the 1 ms MPRT response time, it's aiming for the competitive crowd. Fast motion looks clean, tearing is minimal. But here's the contrarian snapback. It's only an AMD FreeSync monitor, no official G-Sync support. For NVIDIA GPU users, that's a potential hiccup. Does it still handle variable refresh rates well? We tested it and the results were interesting. Cut to technical test setup with FRAMES graph. Let's get technical. The panel is IPS, so viewing angles are great. No color shift when you lean side to side. Color coverage is rated at 99% sRGB, which is good for most work and gaming, but not for serious color-critical work. It's a sRGB champ, not an Adobe RGB artist. Brightness peaks at 300 nits, which is decent for a room with controlled lighting, but not for a super bright sunlit office. HDR. It has an HDR10 mode, but with only 300 nits, it's more of an HDR suggestion than a true HDR experience. Think of it as HDR flavored. Quick cut to dark scene with backlight bleed test. Now the dark side. IPS glow and backlight uniformity. This is where budget monitors often show their budget. Our unit had some expected IPS glow in the corners, that typical cloudy look when viewing dark content in a dark room. It wasn't severe, but it's there. For dark room cinematic gaming, it's a slight compromise. But here's a joke for you. Trying to spot backlight bleed on an ultra-wide is like looking for a specific grain of sand on a beach. You'll always find something if you stare hard enough. Uniformity was acceptable, not perfect. Cut to user playing a fast PACED game, back to gaming performance. 144 Hz on this large canvas is glorious. The extra width gives you a peripheral vision advantage in racing games or open-world titles. You see more of the battlefield. The curve adds to that immersion, wrapping the action around you, but the FreeSync only support had us worried. Testing with an NVIDIA RTX card, using the adaptive sync option in the driver, it worked surprisingly well. No major stuttering or tearing within the monitor's refresh range. It's not certified, but it's cooperative. Therefore, if you have an AMD card, you're golden. If you have NVIDIA, it's likely to work, but it's a roll of the dice, not a guarantee. Cut to menu navigation showing OSD options. The on-screen display is controlled by a set of buttons on the back right. Not the most intuitive, but you get used to it. The menu offers standard fare, color presets, brightness, contrast, and a few gaming features like a refresh rate counter and an overdrive setting for response times. The overdrive has a few levels. We found the middle setting worked best to minimize ghosting without introducing inverse ghosting. It's a functional, no-frills OSD. It won't win any awards, but it won't slow you down either. Cut to connection panel showing ports. Connectivity is straightforward. You get two HDMI 2.0 ports, one DisplayPort 1.4, and a headphone jack. No USB-C, no built-in USB hub. This is a display, pure and simple. It takes your signal and shows it. For a modern setup, the lack of USB-C might be a miss for some laptop users. You'll need an adapter, but therefore the included ports are robust enough for a gaming PC or a standard work setup. Plug and play. Cut to side-by-side comparison with a standard 27-inch monitor. Let's talk value. At around $350, this monitor sits in a very sweet spot. It's not the cheapest 34-inch ultrawide, but it's far from the most expensive. You're getting a high refresh rate, a decent IPS panel, and a functional design. Compared to a standard 27-inch 1440p monitor, you gain immense screen real estate. It's like getting a second monitor for half the price of buying another one. But is that extra width always an advantage? For some tasks, like editing very wide timeline videos, it's perfect. For others, like reading a single column of text, you might find yourself scrolling sideways more than you'd like. It's a workflow change. Cut to user STRETCHING and looking at the monitor, ergonomics and health. The curve and size can actually be more comfortable for your neck and eyes. Your gaze stays more centered. You move your head less than with a flat, giant screen. The width reduces the need to lean in to see corners. But, and this is a big but, if your desk isn't deep enough, this monitor can feel overwhelmingly close. You need space. Think of it like a friendly giant. It's great if you have a big couch for it to sit on, but awkward if you try to squeeze it into a small car. A deep desk is recommended. Cut to montage of different use cases. Work, game, movie. So, who is this monitor for? First, the productivity power user. The programmer, the financial analyst, the writer who needs multiple sources open. Second, the immersion-seeking gamer. Not the hardcore competitive esports player who needs a 240Hz 24-inch screen, but the RPG, racing, and strategy game lover. Third, the generalist who wants one screen to do everything decently well, work, play, and watch movies. The ultra-wide aspect ratio is fantastic for cinema, as many films are native 21:9, filling the screen without black bars. It's a movie buff's delight. However, therefore, it's not for the color-accurate professional photographer or video editor. It's not for the HDR enthusiast, and it's not for someone with a tiny desk. Cut to a joke visual. A person trying to fit the monitor into a micro desk. Here's another joke. Buying this monitor for a tiny desk is like buying a gorilla for your apartment. You'll quickly realize you don't have the space for its majestic presence. Plan your desk space accordingly. Cut back to host speaking directly to camera. Let's weigh the pros and cons clearly. Pros: incredible screen real estate for productivity. Smooth 144Hz refresh rate for gaming. Good IPS viewing angles and decent sRGB color. Aggressive curve that many find immersive. A very competitive price for the feature set. Cons: only FreeSync support, no G-Sync certification. Moderate brightness, 300 nits and basic HDR. Some IPS glow expected. No USB-C or advanced connectivity. Tilt-only stand adjustment. Cut to final B-roll of the monitor in action. So, the final verdict. Is the Lenovo G34w-10 worth the investment in 2026? If your primary needs are productivity, screen space, and smooth gaming on a budget, then yes, absolutely. It delivers tremendous value for its price. The curve is a love-it-or-hate-it feature, but it works well with the ultra-wide format. The lack of G-Sync is a notable omission for NVIDIA users, but adaptive sync often works. It's a monitor that makes compromises to hit a price point, but it compromises on the right things for its target audience. It doesn't try to be a professional color tool or a blistering esports machine. Therefore, it focuses on being a fantastic generalist ultra-wide. For the immersion, for the workflow boost, for the sheer fun of having a panoramic view of your digital world, it's a compelling buy. Final joke, one last joke. Using this monitor is like suddenly getting bifocals for your computer. You see so much more at once, you might get a little dizzy from all the newfound clarity. But you'll quickly adapt and love it. Host looks directly AT camera. If this giant, curved window into your work and games sounds like the upgrade you need, it's definitely worth considering. It remains one of the best value propositions in the ultra-wide space. For the best current price on Amazon, check the link in the description below. Thanks for watching.